The nature of mind. Confined in the dark, narrow cage of our own making, which we take for the whole universe, very few of us can even begin to imagine another dimension of reality. Patrul Rinpoche tells the story of an old frog who had lived all his life in a dank well. One day a frog from the sea paid him a visit. "Where do you come from?" asked the frog in the well. "From the great ocean," he replied. "How big is your ocean?" "It's gigantic." "You mean about a quarter the size of my well here." "Bigger." "You mean half as big?" "No, even bigger." "Is it as big as this well?" "There's no comparison." "That's impossible. I've got to see this for myself." They set off together. When the frog from the well saw the ocean, it was such a shock that his head just exploded into pieces. Most of my childhood memories of Tibet have faded, but two moments will always stay with me. They were when my master Jamyang Khyentse introduced me to the essential, original, and innermost nature of my mind. At first, I felt reticent about revealing these personal experiences, as in Tibet this is never done. But my students and friends were convinced that a description of these experiences would help others, and they pleaded with me and kept on insisting that I write about them. The first of these moments occurred when I was 6 or 7 years old. It took place in that special room which Jamyang Khyentse lived, in front of a large portrait of his previous incarnation, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. This was a solemn, awe-inspiring figure, made more so when the flame of the butter lamp in front of it would flicker and light up its face. Before I knew what was happening, my master did something most unusual. He suddenly hugged me and lifted me up off my feet. Then he gave me a huge kiss on the side of my face. For a long moment, my mind fell away, and completely I was enveloped in a tremendous tenderness, warmth, confidence, and power. The next occasion was more formal, and it happened at Lodrik Karchu, in a cave in which the great saint and father of Tibetan Buddhism, Sogyal, had meditated. We had stopped there on our pilgrimage through southern Tibet. I was about 9 at the time. My master sent for me and told me to sit in front of him. We were alone. He said, "Now I'm going to introduce you to the essential nature of mind." Picking up his bell and small hand drum, he chanted the invocation of all the masters of the lineage, from the primordial Buddha down to his own master. Then he did the introduction. Suddenly, he sprung upon me a question with no answer. "What is mind?" and gazed intently deep into my eyes. I was taken totally by surprise. My mind shattered. No words, no names, no thought remained. No mind, in fact, at all. What happened in that astounding moment? Past thoughts had died away. The future had not yet arisen. The stream of my thoughts was cut right through. In that pure shock, a gap opened, and in that gap was laid bare a sheer, immediate awareness of the present, one that was free of any clinging. It was simple, naked, and fundamental. And yet that naked simplicity was also radiant with the warmth of an immense compassion. How many things could I say about that moment? My master, apparently, was asking a question, yet I knew he did not expect an answer. And before I could hunt for an answer, I knew there was none to find. I sat thunderstruck in wonder, and yet a deep, glowing certainty I had never known before was welling up within me. My master had asked, "What is mind?" And at that instant, I felt that it was almost as if everyone knew there was no such thing as mind, and I was the last to find out. How ridiculous it seemed even then to look for mind. The introduction by my master had sown a seed deep inside me. Later, I came to realize that this was a method of introduction employed in our lineage. Not knowing this then, however, made what happened completely unexpected, and so more astonishing and powerful. In our tradition, we say that the three authentics must be present for the nature of mind to be introduced. The blessing of an authentic master, the devotion of an authentic student, and the authentic lineage of the method of introduction. The President of the United States cannot introduce you to the nature of your mind, nor can your father or your mother. It doesn't matter how powerful someone may be, or how much they love you. It can only be introduced by someone who has fully realized it, and who carries the blessing and experience of the lineage. And you, the student, must find and constantly nourish that openness, breadth of vision, willingness, enthusiasm, and reverence that will change the whole atmosphere of your mind and make you receptive to the introduction. That is what we mean by devotion. Without it, the master may introduce, but the student will not recognize. The introduction to the nature of mind is only possible when both the master and the student enter into that experience together. Only in that meeting of minds and hearts will the student realize. The method is also of crucial importance. It is the very same method that has been tried and tested for thousands of years and enabled the masters of the past themselves to attain realization. When my master gave me the introduction so spontaneously and at such an early age, he was doing something quite out of the ordinary. Normally it is done much later, when a disciple has gone through the preliminary training of meditation practice and purification. This is what ripens and opens the student's heart and mind to the direct understanding of the truth. Then, in that powerful moment of introduction, the master can direct his or her realization of the nature of mind, what we call the master's wisdom mind, into the mind of the now authentically receptive student. The master is doing nothing less than introducing the student to what the Buddha actually is, awakening the student, in other words, to the living presence of enlightenment within. In that experience, the Buddha, the nature of mind, and the master's wisdom are all fused into and revealed as one. The student then recognizes in a blaze of gratitude, beyond any shadow of doubt, that there is not, has never been, and could not ever be any separation between student and master, between master's wisdom mind and the nature of the student's mind. Dujum Rinpoche, in his famous Declaration of Realization, wrote, "Since pure awareness of nowness is the real Buddha, in openness and contentment I found the Lama in my heart." When we realize this unending natural mind is the very nature of the Lama, there is no need for attached, grasping, or weeping prayers or artificial complaints. By simply relaxing in this uncontrived, open and natural state, we obtain the blessing of aimless self-liberation of whatever arises. When you have fully recognized that the nature of your mind is the same of that of the Master, From then on, you and the Master can never be separate, because the Master is one with the nature of your mind, always present, as it is. Remember Lama Seton, whom I had watched dying as a child. When given the chance to have his Master physically present at his deathbed, he said, "With the Master, there's no such thing as distance. When, like Lama Seton, you have recognized that the Master and you are inseparable, an enormous gratitude and sense of awe and homage is born in you." Dujam Rinpoche calls this the homage of the view. It is a devotion that springs spontaneously from seeing the view of the nature of mind. For me, there were many other moments of introduction in the teachings and initiations, and later I received the introduction from my other masters. After Jamyang Khyentse passed away, Dujam Rinpoche held me in his love and took care of me, and I served as his translator for a number of years. This opened another phase of my life. Dujam Rinpoche was one of Tibet's most famous masters and mystics, a renowned scholar and author. My master Jamyang Khyentse always used to talk about how wonderful a master Dujam Rinpoche was, and how he was the living representative of Padma Sambhava in this age. Therefore, I had a profound respect for him. Although I had no personal connection with him or experience of his teachings. One day, after my master had died, when I was in my early 20s, I paid a courtesy call on Dujam Rinpoche in his home in Kalimapong, a hill station in the Himalayas. When I arrived, I found that one of his first American students was there, receiving some instruction. She was having a very frustrating time, as there was no translator with English good enough to translate teachings on the nature of mind. When he saw me come in, Dujam Rinpoche said, "Oh, you are here. Good. Can you translate for her?" So I sat down and began to translate. In one sitting, in the course of about 1 hour, he gave an amazing teaching, one that embraced everything. I was so moved and inspired, there were tears in my eyes, and I realized that this was what Jamyang Khyentse had meant. Immediately afterward, I requested Dujam Rinpoche to give me teachings. I would go to his house every afternoon and spend several hours with him. He was small, with a beautiful and gentle face, exquisite hands, and a delicate, almost feminine presence. He wore his hair long and tied it up like a yogin in a knot. His eyes always glittered with secret amusement. His voice seemed the voice of compassion itself, soft and a little hoarse. Dujam Rinpoche would sit on a low seat covered with a Tibetan carpet, and I sat just below him. I will always remember him sitting there, the late sun streaming in through the window behind him. Then one day, when I was receiving the teaching and practicing with him, I had the most astounding experience. Everything I had ever heard about in the teachings seemed to be happening to me. All the material phenomena around us were dissolving. I became so excited and stammered, "Rinpoche, Rinpoche, it's happening." I will never forget the look of compassion on his face as he leaned down toward me and comforted me. "It's all right. It's all right. Don't get too excited. In the end, it's neither good nor bad." Wonder and bliss were beginning to carry me away. But Dujam Rinpoche knew that although good experiences can be useful landmarks on the path of meditation, they can be traps if attachments enter in. You have to go beyond them into a deeper and more stable grounding. It was to that grounding that his wise words brought me. Dujam Rinpoche would inspire again and again the realization of the nature of mind through the words of teachings he gave. The words themselves kindled glimpses of real experience. For many years every day, he would give me the instructions on nature of the mind, known as the pointing out instructions. Although I had received all the essential training from my master Jamyang Khyentse like a seed, it was Dudjom Rinpoche who had watered it and made it blossom. And when I began to teach, it was his example that inspired me.